North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has once again visited China to meet with President Xi Jinping. Chinese state-run media say the two leaders discussed denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. China's state-run media broadcast footage from the two-day visit in the northeastern city of Dalian. Kim reportedly said he hopes to build trust with the U.S. through talks and that he hopes to work towards denuclearization and peace on the peninsula through phased steps. President Xi noted he backs the idea of talks between the U.S. and the North. Kim is expected to meet with U.S. President Trump within weeks. Meanwhile, North Korea's state-run broadcaster also heralded the visit.
회담에서는 최근 세계 이목이 집중되고 있는 조선반도 정세 흐름과 발전 추이에 대한 평가와 견해.
This marks Kim's second trip to China in just 40 days. He also met with Xi in March during a surprise visit to Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has arrived in Tokyo for a summit with the Japanese and South Korean leaders. Li will meet Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and South Korean President Moon Jae-in on Wednesday. Moon is expected to brief the other leaders on his meeting last month with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. South Korean officials say Moon is also hoping to shore up support for a declaration he signed with Kim. In it, the North and the South agreed to work towards a peace treaty to replace the Korean War armistice, as well as the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Li will also meet with Abe one-on-one later in the day. The two are expected to discuss ways to address protectionism amid Beijing's deepening trade rift with U.S. President Trump's administration.
Let's show you an interesting tweet from Bloomberg, because we're just learning from them that Kim Jong-un is watching Trump's Iran decision, according to China's former ambassador to North Korea. So no shortage of opinion on how the president's decision to pull out of one nuclear deal with Iran could affect America's position when Donald Trump heads to a historic summit with Kim Jong-un later this year. Mr. Kim is clearly preparing. Today, we found out he has made a second surprise visit to China. He met President Xi Jinping in the northern city of Dalian, and these are the pictures of the two meeting on the seafront. They held 2 days of talks ahead of a meeting on Wednesday between China, South Korea and Japan. And I asked BBC Chinese's Vincent Ni how much of a surprise the visit had been.
It's quite a big surprise, really, because remember, some 40 days ago, Kim Jong-un took a train and went to China, and Xi Jinping greeted him, and that was a huge surprise to the outside world. And nobody had expected Kim Jong-un would go on the plane and fly to China this time, to the Chinese port city of Dalian. And as you can see from these pictures, both men are actually quite relaxed and confident. They sit down together, they took a stroll along the seaside in Dalian. So this really shows that Kim Jong-un, having emerged from this meeting with Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, he is actually more confident. But the question still remains what he is trying to achieve in China. I think two things stand out from Chinese statements this afternoon. One is that Kim Jong-un says he wants phased and synchronized measures in a responsible manner and hopes to eventually achieve denuclearization and a long-lasting peace on the Korean peninsula. I think this line is rather a message to Donald Trump. He said he wants phased and synchronized measures in a responsible manner, which means if Donald Trump wants Kim Jong-un to have a snap deal in scrapping all these nuclear facilities, it is not going to happen anytime soon. And also wants a synchronized measure, which means when Kim Jong-un is trying to reduce risks on the Korean peninsula, America should also do something on the Korean peninsula.
So very much in both of these leaders' minds is this forthcoming meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. China very much not wanting to be left out.
Exactly. I mean, China, you can see actually China has been quite worried after the meeting between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in. China really wants to have a say at the table of the discussion. However, China also has to tread a very careful line, because remember, there's a brewing trade war between China and the United States, and China certainly doesn't want to ruin the relationship with the United States.
How much would both of them be watching what is going on in Washington the decisions that Donald Trump is taking over the Iran nuclear deal. How much bearing does that have on a future deal, future negotiations with North Korea and the US?
I would say the timing is really bad because Kim Jong-un might look at what had happened in Iran and more previously in Libya after scrapping these nuclear facilities in their respective countries. What America will do to them, right? Especially in Libya. Last month, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton also said America is considering a Libyan model for North Korea. I think even before this Iran deal, China and North Korea have something to think about in the future about Korean Peninsula.
Right, so pulling out of the Iran deal by the United States could potentially be more risky for future outcomes, future progress with North Korea.
Certainly. I mean, from Kim Jong-un's perspective, it might think, even the leader of the free world might change his mind after a few years of a continuing deal and all these promises. Kim Jong-un might think this might happen on me as well one day.
Vincent Nee of BBC Chinese.